Shut the fuck up!
Undead Murder Farce. Alright, so let's get the setting out of the way. Tokyo, Japan, 1897, monsters exist, humans did a purge, some of the monsters survived. The story starts off by introducing us to Tsugaru, a fighter who kills monsters as part of a circus performance, and on stage he's known as the Oni Slayer. Tsugaru spends most of his days walking around the village and drinking beer, much like my other hero, Hank Hill. So Tsugaru, Jesus Christ, that's gonna make this hard. So Tsugaru realizes one day that he's being followed, and he decides to confront the person that's following him. It's a lady in a maid's outfit, holding a bird's cage. Tsugaru reaches for the bird cage and
That's all I needed for him to do that, and it became personal with me.
She pulls out a big ass sword rifle, and before any of you say anything, I know it's a bayonet, but that thing looks like a fucking sword. But Tsugaru is the smartest boy, so he pours his beer down the rifle so that it won't fire. After a little bit more squabbling, Tsugaru comes out on top, and now the birdcage is talking. It apologizes and starts explaining how they know pretty much everything about him. That he's half Oni, that he was made against his will, how he doesn't have long to live, and how his powers work, which basically is that he can kill any monster. The cage then reveals itself to be Aya Rindo, a talking head.
What the fuck?
Aya is an immortal being known as a Fushin. They can't die, they don't age, they regenerate any body part that's cut off, so why is she missing a body?
Why?
Tsugaru, realizing that the only thing that could ever kill an immortal being would be an Oni, puts two and two together and realizes an Oni hybrid is what took her body. Aya didn't see the face of her attacker, but she did see the face of the person commanding her attacker. And he was a Gaijin. And not only did this filthy Gaijin take her body, he sounds like the same person that turned Tsugaru into an Oni hybrid. And so Aya's all like, hey, I don't really like being a head. Can you just kill me? And Tsugaru's like, nah, how about this? We go to Europe, we get your body back, and we find a dude that turned me into a monster because
I'm gonna beat his ass.
Aya agrees to the terms and says, in order to extend your life, you have to consume part of me. You can either consume my snot or my saliva. So, you know which one he chose. And I'd just like to say, Aya knew exactly what she was doing. Well played. So now we're skipping ahead a year. Eastern Europe. France to be specific. So Tsugaru and Aya have basically been spending the last year going around Europe solving mysteries involving monsters, and they've now been hired by a vampire named Lord Goddard. Lord Goddard had a wife, and his wife was named Hannah. Hannah got murdered, and so far it looks like a vampire hunter did it. However, the police ain't shit in any universe, and they refuse to investigate the murder because they're racist against monsters. And I mean, you gotta feel bad for Lord Goddard, man. I mean, he sounds like a good dude, you know. He loves his family. He loves his kids. He go to church. He hunt. Sounds like a good old southern boy. So Tsugaru and Aya reach the mansion, and Tsugaru decides to fuck with the cab driver. Tsugaru tricks him into lowering his fare on a round trip with some witty wordplay, and Aya deduces that he hasn't had a drink in over a week because his wife yelled at him, just by looking at his clothes. This combination sends him crying to Lord Goddard begging for his pay, and I just gotta say, this poor fucker. Tsugaru, shame on you. So they introduce themselves to Lord Goddard and the rest of the family. You got Charlotte, Claude, Raoul, and the two servants, Alfred and Giselle. So the pair go to the room where Hannah was murdered and start gathering clues, and trying to keep track of these clues gets complicated, but here we go. There are 5 main clues. A silver stake covered in blood found in the storage room, a small dusty bottle, a blood-covered coat, holy water covering Hannah's body and chair, and a broken storage room lock. The bottle, however, is dusty on the inside, and Aya deduces that the holy water was used after Hannah's death. Considering all this, Aya figures out a few things. Hannah was killed while sleeping by a stake, that the coat was used by the murderer to keep the blood off of them, that the holy water was used after Hannah's death, and that the bottle wasn't containing the holy water. Alright, so now everybody's at dinner, and Aya's starting to interview the family members and figuring out what their whereabouts were on the night in question. Dinner ended at about 12:30 a.m. That's about an hour before the body was discovered. Hannah usually nurses her food babies by going to take a nap, and this night was no different. Meanwhile, Goddard, Claude, and Charlotte were all together in his study until about 1 a.m. At 1 a.m., Lord Goddard went into the storage room to grab his gun and ammo, and at that time everything seemed fine. The steak that he had gotten off of a hunter that tried to attack him was still inside of his case inside of the storage room. Meanwhile, Claude went to his room to read. When Lord Goddard was about to leave to go hunting, Raoul came down and said he wanted to tag along to look at plants. So Aya starts to question Raoul next, and this nigga gets mad defensive.
I didn't do fucking shit!
He asks her if she thinks that one of them did it, and she tells them yeah. After everybody gets over being shocked about that, Raoul says that he was in his room until 1 a.m., and then he left with his dad. Alfred was working on Lord Goddard's schedule, and Giselle was doing laundry. She was eventually joined by Charlotte to keep her entertained. Aya then straight up tells everybody that the only two people without an alibi after 1 a.m. are Alfred and Claude. And of course, they're shocked and angered by this. Claude is so angered by this, in fact, that he threatens Tsugaru in the hallway after dinner. Tsugaru starts wondering if this means he might be the killer, but Aya says that his hands are unburned. Everybody at dinner had clean hands. So for now, the prime suspect really looks like Alfred. Aya orders Shizuku to keep watch of the two servants. Meanwhile, the other two go with Lord Goddard in order to visit the site where he was attacked at. While they're out in the freezing cold forest, Lord Goddard brings up that he's already lost 2 family members in addition to Hannah. He also starts questioning their backstories, and Tsugaru just straight up admits to them being a half-demon and an immortal. During this conversation, Lord Goddard gets attacked by the hunter's friend. This is Josef, and Lord Goddard quickly catches up to him. But before he's able to kill him, Aya stops him. From Joseph, we learn that the other hunter, Hugo, had mentioned making a powerful ally in his attempt to take down Lord Goddard. Not only that, we also learned that Joseph had just gotten in from Germany, and that he had no idea that Hugo had a silver stake on him. This means Joseph couldn't have been Hannah's killer. And with that, Aya has all that she needs. She tells Lord Goddard to gather everybody up because it's time to reveal the murderer. With everybody gathered up, Aya goes over the problems she had with trying to solve the case. There were 4 main problems. One was that Hannah was a vampire, yet she didn't notice a person trying to murder her. Second was that somebody left a bottle, for no reason considering that it hadn't been used. Third was the leaving of the stake. Why would you leave your murder weapon? And the 4th problem was the fact that the murder took place at night, when vampires are at their strongest. Why wouldn't an intruder attack during the day when vampires are at their weakest? But the most important problem was the lack of sound. If a silver stake had been driven into her heart, there would have to be a hammer to drive it, wouldn't there? Why wouldn't there be a sound? She suggests that there was no sound because there was no hammer, because the stake was too fragile to be hit with a hammer, meaning that it wouldn't have been the silver stake. She continues breaking down issues. Why was there a bottle left there? Because it was a decoy. Why leave the supposed murder weapon? So that Lord Goddard could find it. And most importantly, why was there holy water everywhere? Because the stake was made out of frozen holy water. The person that murdered Hannah used the leather case of the stake to freeze holy water into a holy weapon. The old stab 'em with an icicle trick. Sneaky. The murderer did all of this just to make sure that it looked like the murder had occurred while Lord Goddard was out hunting. So now we have an updated list of qualifications for our murderer. First, the murderer can't have an alibi between 12:30 and 1 a.m. when everybody first left dinner. They have to be someone whose alibi would have covered the previously assumed time of the murder, 1 to 1:30 a.m. Third, they have to be someone that had the time to freely move about. Fourth, they have to be strong enough to drive a stake by hand, snap open a lock quickly, and fifth, capable of hiding their presence to a vampire. The only people without alibis during this time are the servants and Raoul. I don't think Alfred is snapping locks with his bare hands. Raoul protests and says there's no way he could have touched the stake without burning his fingers. Aya responds with, "You did burn your fingers, you just cut them off so that nobody would know. You know, cause vampire healing." Realizing he's been found out, Raoul lunges at Aya, but Tsugaru easily stops him. Raoul tries to attack again, but Tsugaru goes ahead and sends him through the first of what will be many walls. As Tsugaru deals with Raoul, Aya continues to explain the murder. Raoul didn't want to be a human ally, so he decided to try to frame humans for murdering his mother. He was hoping that this would turn his father against humans. He tricked Hugo into attacking Goddard, that way he could get his hands on the stake in the case. Then he got some holy water from the church, poured it inside the case, left it outside to freeze, and he was ready to murder his mom. Meanwhile, Raul's lamenting about how his family is weak for trying to cozy up to a lesser species and how he thought he could convince his father, but they're just a hindrance and getting in his way.
Oh no! Anyway.
Raul realizes that he's not healing from that punch, and Tsugaru takes the time to reveal that he is the Oni Slayer. I don't know if Raul knows what that means, but he looks like he just shot himself. Tsugaru is not taking this fight seriously at all. He's monologuing, he's dancing about, he's dodging every single blow that this dude is throwing at him, and throwing counters so hard that his ribs look like a jigsaw puzzle. Tsugaru tried to warn him, he is a one-hit, one-kill character. And Raul? Well,
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
So Tsugaru easily finishes off Raul, and with that, the mystery is, well, solved. Lord Goddard is of course distressed because he did just find out that his son murdered his wife, and now his son is dead. That's 4 family members this man has lost.
4!
But the gang is done with their part of the job, so they get ready to leave. But before they go, Aya asks him about the man with the cane. Goddard says the man was actually there a few days before they had shown up.
Nigga, what?
The man had asked Lord Goddard to come with him to London, but Lord Goddard's got a family to take care of, so he wasn't about it. Anyway, this show's pretty damn good. You guys should check it out. It's funny, the fight scenes are really good, and honestly, it feels like it's been pretty slept on by most of the anime community so far. So if you like this video, drop a like. If you got a comment, drop a comment. If you want to see more from me, check out one of these videos on screen right now. See ya.